So today we're talking with Colleen Stanley. She's the president of a leading sales consulting firm that specializes in emotional intelligence. And she's been named by Salesforce as one of the most influential sales experts of the 21st century. Welcome, Colleen.
Thank you for having me, Sonia. Happy to be here.
Now, can you go a little bit more into how emotional intelligence can help with, one, differentiating oneself, especially with the advent and the velocity of technology that's coming down the pipeline that makes a lot of manual things or manual processes obsolete? So how does a person, a human being, help differentiate themselves, especially using emotional intelligence?
Well, I think remembering that technology is often the medium, but what you need behind the medium of delivery is still the person, the human touch. So, for example, let's just take a favorite topic, CRM tools, right? So whatever the CRM tool is, often when companies purchase a CRM tool, for some reason they think that technology is going to also automatically create people that pick up the phone, send out emails that are meaningful, thoughtful, inspiring, insight-selling, challenger-selling, solution, whatever. No, it's the medium. So what we need to understand is there are people still behind the technology. And so that's where I think they're getting mixed up. I would also say with the onset of technology, we have to remember that good selling is a combination of psychology, physiology, and consultative selling skills. So we've got another human being we're trying to reach out to. So that's why we've got to have the empathy. Well, if I'm going to reach out to this person, how do I demonstrate quickly that I understand their world, their pain, their goals, what they're worried about? They're worried about remaining relevant in a world that's getting disrupted every 6 months. That's a human touch. You know, until we get the robots, which they're working quite hard on, but until we get robots that can figure that out, they can't have those deeper conversations.
And what about the self-talk about an individual's relevance? Because, I know that's come up in countless conversations that I've had of, well, what about me? How do I now add value to this marketplace where you can buy an app for that?
Well, see, I think when you take a look at relevancy, number one, you've got to put in the time to be relevant. So obviously, both the worlds that both you and I play in, the big term is be a thought leader. But then I will ask individuals, how much time do you spend reading and studying? And I often get the answer back, well, I don't really like to read. Now, that can take the form of audio or the written word. So when they say I don't like to read, then what I'm thinking is, well, there's no way you can be a thought leader, because the only way you can be a thought leader is to read some new thoughts, put thoughts from opposing businesses together, and that's how you become a critical thinker. That's how you ask the good questions on a call. So frankly, for you to be relevant, it's again slowing down and putting in the work. I believe there's a term called the I don't have it right off the top of my head, but the research shows that some of your most successful people spend 30 minutes a day reading. If you study Warren Buffett, when he's been interviewed, he held up 500 pages, and this is how you become relevant. Now, I've had some of my salespeople say, well, if I was a billionaire, I'd have time to read too. And my not very EQ answer is, well, maybe that's why he's a billionaire. He took the time to read, study, gain new insights and thoughts. So, one of the things I always encourage clients, whether it's my writing, speaking, training, is that carve out quiet time in the morning. Because most of us, the first thing we do in the morning, I'm not saying I'm included here, I am not guilty of this, but they check their cell phone. And my point is, why don't you check in with yourself first? What's working, what's not working? How do you want to show up today? What didn't work yesterday? What can you do differently? Because again, that what you're not aware of, you're bound to repeat.
You brought up, I think I saw a recent video that you were talking about distractions and how that is, it's because we're not necessarily thinking with our full brain because we're consistently distracted. Even in front of clients, we're distracted.
Yes. And I think what's what corporate America needs a wake up call on is that we're starting to accept distracting habits of distraction as the normal.
Mm-hmm.
And when you study psychology, physiology, communication, a distracted individual is not a productive individual. So if somebody's always toggling between one email to another, then they try to work on really intentional work, you can't do it because focus requires just that, focus. Mm-hmm. Carve out an hour. Don't look at your computer. Don't answer the phone. Do that intentional creative work. I can't tell you how many meetings I observe, and half the room is not paying attention. And I have no idea why the company is even running the meeting. Or, you got the look up and down, so people are doing the half paying attention. So I find that people are very good at partial attention. And frankly, that one's on the CEOs and sales managers. That's really unacceptable behavior if you're looking for a productive team, a productive meeting, productive outcomes.
What have you found in all your years of consulting and sales experience? Like, what are some of those key habits the top salespeople do that honestly the average ones either overlook or minimize?
They are extremely good at time management. And time management might start with, number one, what time you get up, and then what you do with that time when you get up. So the research is pretty clear. Now, some of the night owls here will be pushing back dramatically, but the research is pretty clear that some of your highest earners actually get up 2 or 3 hours earlier than their counterparts. Part of this is brain science. Your brain is rested. It's fresh. So if you've got that intentional work, you'll find your top producers have calendar blocked, and they use that early morning time for reflection and intention, and then to create some of those projects or initiatives that need more thinking there. So they're extremely good at time management. These are not people that give away their calendars easily. They've got good impulse control. The second thing I would say is that these individuals practice a lot. So we always love to see somebody that's very masterful. It's fun. But, when you study mastery, there's hours and hours of practice behind that. And that takes some delayed gratification. These are salespeople that are willing to put in the work to earn the reward. So I find they've developed a habit of practice and mastery. And I would say the third habit I consistently see, these people are the learners of the world. So they may have a lot of confidence, they actually are getting good results, but they are in the emotional intelligence world called self-actualized people. They're always on a journey of learning. And so for them, learning is a habit. And that goes back to how they start their day, where they use their time. So it all kind of blends together.
I love it. You mentioned something earlier, a key phrase, likability. And you were speaking a little bit in your book about obviously people buy from people they like. But what does that mean? Because, no one likes forced likability. Like when you know someone is pretending to be nice and interested, but you can feel like you're really not interested in my world.
So when you're sensing somebody that you're not interested in your world, particularly in the profession of sales, generally it's because a salesperson's showing up and they have way too much attachment to their quota and the outcome of the meeting. So one of the things we will teach in our sales training courses is that lose the attachment to the outcome. Because if I'm attached to making sure I get a close at this meeting, I'm going to show up weird. I mean, I'm going to, you just do, right? It's like being on a bad blind date. Is this the person I'm going to marry? I got to figure it out in these next 2 hours, right? But a person that shows up very unattached, and they show up very masterful, by the way, they're really relaxed. And if they've got a full pipeline, that's the other thing. When you have a full pipeline, you can show up really interested because I don't need this deal, but I'm interested in this deal. So I think part of likability, lose the attachment. The way you lose the attachment is you have a big full pipeline because you've done the consistent activity. And then also when you're pretty relaxed, that's when you can bring the skill of empathy, really trying to understand, I wonder what this person's world is. I'm curious what's going on. So to me, that's what likability is. You're relaxed, I'd like this business. I don't need this business at play.
I found that I'm glad you brought on or you brought up the idea that it takes time, because I found that it takes anywhere from, I think the studies out there, 5 to 12 marketing touches to land a new client. So if you give up at like touch number 4, or email ghost silence number 3, sounds like you're missing the opportunity because you're not waiting for this pretty much the natural process to happen.
You know what? You just nailed it. So the research is clear. Our logical brain knows it's 12 touches. Have all this research to back it up. But our emotional brain, our emotions start thinking, oh, I'm a loser. I don't want to do this is never going to happen for me. And so being aware of, hey, wait a minute, you know what, this is only my 4th touch. I'm going to look at my, my scripting, my messaging. Is it on point? And you know what, the fact is you may need to make those 10 to 12 touch points, even if you've got the greatest messaging crafted. So you're spot on.
Okay, so it's almost like you're planning for your own success by realizing unless I get to number 12, I can't give up just yet.
That's right. And that's having the awareness. So, in the emotional intelligence world, it's called self-awareness. And I always like to tell my clients that what you are not aware of, you cannot change. Mm-hmm. So you've got to be aware of when negative self-talk sets in, negative belief systems that I've got the worst territory or the worst prospects. No, what you've got is a very busy prospect that perhaps is wondering if they even need your services. So it's going to take 10 or 12 touches to enlighten them, inspire them, educate them. But this is where good old-fashioned work ethic comes into play. Mm-hmm. And if you don't have a full pipeline, quit talking about work-life balance. You know what? I'm a little over it because all these people are talking about work-life balance, and then I will examine their work schedule or their age, and I'm kind of like, we have never done the work in order to earn the balance. So I think if somebody's only got one prospect in the pipeline, I'm going to dig a little bit deeper there. Maybe it is a skill set. Maybe they don't know who to target, mm-hmm. but I promise you they're probably not doing enough activity.
And do you find that, because I like how you mentioned like systems and processes. So say I'm just thinking about the solopreneur or just someone who is just starting out. How do you even tackle a system? Like where do you even start? Because it's like they're motivated. They want to be able to build their pipeline, but what does that really look like as far as here's an easy step 1? Is step 1 get a coach to help you through this? Like what's realistic action steps that can be taken?
Well, some action steps. So with or without a coach, right? Mm-hmm. So first of all, you want to take a look at success. Make your life easy. How you're going to make your life easy is figure out who your best target is. I always make a joke that the late Zig Ziglar couldn't have closed a deal if he was in front of the wrong type of prospect. So this from your marketing background. So you got to get clear on who's your demographic and who is your psychographic. Mm-hmm. And that's where you get really clear on who I'm going to say no to and who I'm going to say yes to. And I would say where most sales organizations missed it is on the psychographic. And those are it's the collective attitude of the company. I mentioned this in the book. So do they value expertise? Well, if somebody values expertise, guess what? They pay for it. Are they really innovative, or is it a fear-averse culture? They just like to say they're innovative, but they haven't taken a risk in the last 20 years, right? Uh-huh. Do they really? Right. So I always crack up at innovation. I'm like, no, you're not. You're so worried about failing that nobody's trying anything, right? Uh-huh. Are these people that actually value relationships? So getting clear on the who, then I would lay out the activity plan and start testing what sales activity generates the most return for me. And I think when you're starting, I always recommend 4 to 6 different activities. It could be what I call the good old-fashioned activity, association meetings, networking, meeting with those referral partners, speaking, trade shows. And then the newer is some of the social selling, LinkedIn, email, and some of the, there's even other tools out there with the sales enablement. So you do a combination, mm-hmm. and it's got to be active where you're actually seeing people, and then you can do some of the social selling. And then you start tracking your activity, what's working, setting up goals that way. You look for trigger events. So if this happens, they're more likely to hear from me. And then I would say you start developing your value propositions, the compelling questions you're going to ask on a call, and start learning a basic sales process.
That's real. I love it.
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
lastly, Colleen, where can people learn more about your sales methodology and get in contact with you?
Go to our website at www.salesleadershipdevelopment.com. We have got lots of free resources on there. We've got ebooks that talk about emotional intelligence. We send out a video blog or written blog every week. So I encourage your audience to subscribe to that. It's kind of a quick 2 or 3 minute tip that will add to your learning and hopefully your earnings.
Mm-hmm.
And then obviously the book is also on our website, which is Emotional Intelligence for Sales Success. And that's published in 6 languages. So if you don't speak English, we've got some other ones for you to tap into.
Well, great. Well, thank you, Colleen, for sharing your insights and your humor with my peers today.
And thank you for having me. I sure appreciate it.